Mr. Danger. What's up? How does the audio here sound, Al? You guys let me know if I sound all right. To see if I can, where do I get to? Oh, there we go. All right, we'll give this a few minutes to do the things. I'll say while this is doing whatever it does, feel free to drop a comment or a question. Ryan, Mark, sounds good, though you're not wearing nearly enough gear. Hey, look at that. We can put that up there. Colin. I don't know how to get rid of that now. There we go. Look at that. We did a thing. Why is it so big? Make that smaller. Not going smaller. Still not going smaller. What is this preview mode? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's been a while. Why back to live mode? Current live scene as unpublished changes. Publish them. Oh. I bet that changed for y'all. All right. Let me put this out one more place and then we can go. Too many doodads. Why is this box up? All right, let's get this party started. A little weird to not actually have no noise in my ear, so that's a little odd. But nice to see everybody who's come in: Tegan, Colin, Ryan, Keith, Mark. If you're there watching, feel free to drop something in the chat to say hi. This is sort of an open-ended rant, I guess, answering any questions that folks might have. But I'll just start with, if you were, you're just catching this for the first time and you're wondering what's going on with Conference 2025, there's no plans to host one this year. So there's a blog post up at thatconference.com WAC blog, where I go into detail as to some of how we got here. And I'll give a quick little synopsis, if you will. The reality is, over the past few years, since the pandemic, we've had a bit of a struggle coming back from where we were. Essentially, when the pandemic hit, we kind of rebooted. And it's not just me, everybody rebooted. We kind of started over from zero. And at that point, we'd been going on for about 10 years. So if you can imagine, you've got this kind of train that's been built up and there's a lot of infrastructure to support the train. So, we went from a business that was kind of clicking pretty well, and then it went to zero. And that came with a lot of adjusting and sort of refactoring to how we were going to operate. I took that as an opportunity to of course I got a phone call. We took that as a company, we took that as an opportunity to really refactor how we were working. It was we looked at it as the one period where we would have an opportunity to invest in the company and the community. We figured that was a time where the community needed us the most. So going on pause wasn't an option. We knew that would eat up a lot of the financial runway that we would have had. But it was a gamble that we were willing to take. And the pandemic being what it is, I worked 2 jobs, so unspecified loss contracts, and there was a lot of other complexities, but we spent that time rebuilding the platform. We were doing monthly events. We did an online event. We were doing quite a bit of things during the pandemic in hopes to, one, be there for the community, but also, would this be, would this get us ahead, if you will? And so we spent a great deal of time, many long hours, thanks to Brett, who was on at the time too, working really hard to make sure that we were a product that people wanted. And we went back in 21, and nobody really kind of knew what to expect. I don't know if we did well or didn't do well. We did it. I would say that was doing well. We had started the Texas stuff back in 2018. So that was sort of already underway. And of course, there was a bunch of juggling as to where that was to happen and whatnot. And a year later, we did Texas. And since the pandemic, we've done 6 in-person events. All the events have been great. The unfortunate part is what hasn't happened is the financial side of things. That is, sponsorships have continued to decline. The tech layoffs, inflation being what it is, took a really huge task. Our costs basically doubled, not across the board, but our ticket prices didn't double. We tried to get creative with the pricing, tried to keep it what it could be, changed our sponsorships around a little bit. But the reality is, without the people, there's not the sponsors. Without the sponsors, you can't offset the tickets. If the food's too expensive and the hotel's too expensive and people aren't leaving their rooms, everything kind of gets out of balance. And I don't know, maybe I did or didn't make the right decisions throughout to make it viable. I knew that us taking on Texas would be an investment in what we were doing. That didn't, we never really got the traction there either. The first year we had some small numbers. I mean, again, all the events were great. All of our events have always been great. I think that one of the nice things about the Texas event was it showed that you can actually do some pretty cool stuff with a smaller audience that we couldn't do in Wisconsin. And that was sort of a big eye opener. I think our third event in Texas, I don't know. I thought it was pretty fantastic. It was one of the first events where I got to hang out with people versus kind of dealing with all the chaos that surrounds it. So, but the reality is it didn't even break even. And unfortunately, Wisconsin was sort of on the rise, and then it wasn't. And the bills kept piling up, and then at some point we had to take out a loan. That loan exists today. If you're anywhere close to business, money's really expensive. So as the way it stands right now, I mean, the company still has operations and things. It's not like this is over, but it is sort of drilling itself into the ground. So, and Carrie and I are kind of adjusting and trying to figure out where can we, how do we adapt and adjust, and what does it look like in the future? If we do an event, what would that look like? Where would that be? And that's sort of starting all over again. To take on a new venue and contracts, as it stands now, we don't even have the money, the capital to sign a contract. So what that looks like, how to be, I really don't know. It just sucks to be even saying this shit right now. So, but I have to kind of step back, and we have to get back on our feet. We have a loan that we have to deal with. And the maths didn't math, and I could boy math that shit all day long. But the thought of having another event that would be upside down is a tough one to swallow. I don't know. I struggle a bit with where that's at. So, yeah. So I'll say that's kind of a short kind of recap of the things that were in the post. For the vultures that are circling around and asking for lists and all that kind of shit, it's not happening. The community is not over just because we're not having an event this year. I don't think anybody can question the level of commitment that we've had to trying to grow a community and not just have an event. So, so that be that. But really, this is kind of a open, ask me anything. Happy to share stories, happy to pull people in if I even know how to do that. So yeah, if you're in a comment section like JD, I don't know, ask a question. See, Braden says, seeing so many familiar faces reminds me of how wonderful the community is. That's what sucks the most. Not the people, but the, I don't know. I feel like I've sort of let everybody down. Yeah. That's my thing. It's a little weird to be in a place where I can sort of say whatever the fuck I want to say, without fear of like sponsor that doesn't want to sponsor, or somebody doesn't want to buy a ticket. So that's interesting. I started creating this website called From Code to Clarity. The goal is to be able to provide more one-on-one coaching with people in a formalized way. That's, if there's a thing that I've learned over the past 15 years, I get pulled into a lot of mentoring and coaching type conversations with folks. I've never charged for it. I've never really had a facility to kind of do that. But I can tell you that it's needed. So, I'm trying to formalize that and help, and talk about the kind of other side of things. So there's a newsletter there, coaching program. I've got an affiliate thing if people want to help, kind of get the word out. But that's a bit of me trying to, still provide, a lasting impact while the event isn't running, pay the bills and whatnot. From an unspecified, the other company, we've got to get it back on its feet because we've bled it dry, being a sponsor of that conference, if anybody's ever seen. seen that or noticed that. I think what we're going to do there is refactor a little bit and start taking some of the tech that I've built in that conference and make it available to other events, industries, conferences type things. So we'll see. More to come on that too. JD says it's perfectly fine to take a year off from speaking. Oh, he's decided to take a year off from speaking. Yeah, I need to get out and like shed the stress that this body has happened in this body. Yeah, Ross has been working in Madison to put together a meetup for, I don't know if we're calling it that meetup or that guild, whatever it is. It's that conference, but in Madison, or it's that meetup, but in Madison. We'll be there. That's next weekend. I think that's next weekend. Danger says, what's worse, Angular, React? They both suck. Svelte's the only answer to that. We all should know that. Colin, I love you too. I'm still doing that freaking 50 miler, even though I haven't got started. Sashi, we just need to keep it going. And I don't know how not to be brutally honest. Let's see, Ryan. I don't think anyone can feel let down. Yeah, I get it. I appreciate the comment. I think it was year 5 where we realized that if we went away, we would create a bigger void in the ecosystem, and it would have been better to even not do it. And what I mean by that is we were generating money for people. It was creating jobs. It was people were landing contracts. Companies were growing. All the ecosystem that existed around us was a very cool thing. And that kept growing over the years, organically, whatnot. But then the fucking pandemic came and it all stopped and people found other ways. And I'm not saying that that's bad, because it did put a circuit breaker in the system. But what it did is it left us out. And people were spending money on online influencers and this and whatever. And there wasn't a line item for, a community conference. Microsoft's a great example, like was a longtime supporter, disappeared. They started doing their own events, pulled all the money out of the system. PE companies came around and bought up consulting companies and whatnot. They took the money out of the system. So it's just sort of a weird fucking place. What's next? What can we do to help? Well, honestly, I'd like to see the help on from Code to Clarity. Getting the word out, getting people on a newsletter. We're going to start doing live streams about that. Finding people who want to be coached, or letting them know that there's a place where they can get coaching. I know the site's sort of I don't want to say it's a hot mess, but it's a developer mess by far. But me growing that, I have to build a bit of my personal brand. So getting your feedback and those introductions, those are all, it's a hard thing for me to ask that help. But that's if there's a place where I can contribute kind of in that ecosystem, with what we're doing, I'm all ears. So there you go, Ryan. I think I answered your question. I'm going to hit the second part of this, which is, one, I appreciate the support and love. It's been nice. In the future, there's a lot of ideas running around as to what the next version of things look like. I'll say there's a lot of, I'll personally say, I don't feel like what we're doing is hitting the vibe that needs to hit. And I don't necessarily mean from a community aspect. I mean in looking at how people learn, how they're inspired to learn, in looking at where they're going to get information. When I started this 20 years ago, which that conference didn't even exist at that time, there was other conferences. The distance to information and clarity was through the community. There wasn't, blogs were just kind of starting, like all that shit didn't exist. And now it exists, and you can get it on TikToks, at least for another few days or whatever until TikTok's gone. But and so how we learn has changed. That puts a lot of pressure on how we teach, which, some people are on repeat of the same old shit over and over every year, and it doesn't really provide any value to the greater ecosystem. So I just kind of keep coming back to, how do you inspire people? How do you grow people? And the reality is, how are we creating? I would really like to see a place where I can sit here and, I'll use Tegan. I think I can talk about this example. And he's right. Svelte all the way. And that conversation, what you don't know is Tegan and I had a conversation at that conference one year in an open space, and they ended up changing some of their architecture to use Svelte. And it was a very organic thing that happened in that environment. And I think about with where AI is coming into the fold, and where just kind of how we're all changing. And there's this need to, it's unquestionable that we need community now more than ever. But the irony is, I don't feel like people think that they need that, which is fine. But at the same token, how we're going to learn and create, how we work today and how we work in 5 years is going to be different. That is that's really obvious to me. So I can't sit here and go, well, we should keep playing the same playbook when we know that the rug is getting ripped out. And, the costs of being at a giant resort convention center don't, there's just this tax that comes with it. So now I just sit here and I think, okay, well, what's a venue and a facility that gets people to create? And where I really want to see things kind of go to is like, how are the people who are showing up and creating changing the world? Not just talking about, this hot keyboard that I found this morning, but I'm talking about like, I need to do this, whatever crazy ass AI agent, bot, robot thing. And, I know that Tegan's doing that. And, maybe there's a place where we can interface with one another and use one another. Cause I do see software getting smaller and moving faster, which means we all need like technical friends. There's a concept in entrepreneurial places where you talk about your financial friends. And these are other business owners and companies that have a vested interest in seeing one another succeed. And I kind of think of the same thing in tech, like who are our technical friends who want to see each other succeed, and not from a, hey, you learned React, because remember my earlier comment, Svelte's better. But really, like, how do these solutions kind of all play together and have impact? So That's a bit of like when I think about what we're doing, what could be done. I guess something has to be let go for something else to bloom. Yeah, and like, look, they changed everything, which, of course, because I know what I'm talking about. Come see the light. Leave React. Come see the light. Let's see, Adam. Good to see you, buddy. Forever's isn't the only measure of success. There are great organizations with lasting impact that only lasted 10 years. You're very right. Statistically speaking, I think it's funny. There's very few companies who ever reach $1 million. There's very few that last X number of years. There's not many events that are run by two people. We ran a pretty big event, pretty smooth. If I've sort of gathered anything from what we've done, is Carrie and I we ran a pretty good ship. Missed the boat in a few places like everybody does, but to run the size of something like that conference with two people, we built all the tech. This wasn't some WordPress site. Nothing against WordPress. It's just not svelte, so it's not good. Let's see. What does Matt say here? Focus on themselves. Obviously, last year's have dramatic health impacts. Yeah, you all have seen it. 2019, finished running every day for a year, and just hasn't been like that since. No, there was a snowboard accident in there, but we won't talk about that. How are we in the family doing? Well, this was the first Christmas I didn't have to work on that conference, so that was nice. Granted, there are still a lot of things going on. We've been in some legal kind of hoo-ha that really just wrapped up at the end of the year. I would say that it's weird. It's weird because my son was 3 when this started. So there's a weird missing undertone in the house where we're not talking about it. I think the bigger question there is Carrie and I are just trying to get these things off the ground, trying to close up some loose ends, trying to kind of pull back and have a little focus. We're obviously in this transition with kids, going to college and getting ready to go to college. So sort of feel old, but navigating, we need to get the monthly revenue stabilized so we can think a little bit clearer. What does Ross say? 2005 was kind of a different world. I found some archive footage of me in a Linux user group where we were discussing Android and its introduction, turn-by-turn directions. That was 2010. I mean, I think that anyone would agree that today feels a lot like when the internet hit. It feels a lot like 1999, 2000, if you're an old timer like me, a lot of throwing shit at the wall, trying to figure out how this is going to work in a new world. And with that comes a whole new subsystem, if you will, of how does that get supported. And that's, I'd be curious if, for those who've been around the .com, if you feel the same way, it hasn't been, it's not new. It's been around for a while, but we're starting to catch that sort of kind of, this tide is rising up, and it will, of course, fall and rise again, whatnot. But times are times are different. I don't think it's bad. I think it's just a place where we have to legitimately harness it and understand what we're going to, how we're going to participate in that. Oh, my best quote ever: one time, anytime versus one time only. Yeah. I don't know that I need to tell that story. I think most people know it. Hard to, I should put it on a plaque. Keith coming in. Yeah, that's definitely the vibe. Figuring out how this thing will work, fit into what we do, what others do with it. Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, I use AI every day. I use it when I code. Now I'm lucky. I'm not working for some giant conglomerate, so I can do what I please. But damn, it is. I use it for writing. I use it for the copy. I use it for just dumb React stuff that I don't want to write. I don't know. Bring it on. I look forward to the change. I'm not scared of losing a job or anything like that. Looking forward to just building more stuff. All stories. Yes. Leon Gersing. I think he was the opener, if I remember. Man, I wish those were recorded. When he was speaking, and he's such a nice guy, and the fact that it was my radio on my back that was messing with the control panel and changing all the lights and all of that. Boy, that was terrifying and something else all at the same thing. And then, of course, Goliath, told by Richard Campbell and his giant magnetic drive sitting in his attic. He's another really good storyteller. And, Richard and I are friends. He's been to that conference so many times over the years, as most of you have been too. Ross, good things happen when you surround yourself with people who love building things. Yeah. And that's where I sit here and I think I don't want to say where did we go wrong, but how did we stop? Where did people lose the desire to do that? The whole hacker mindset and tinkering, our Slack used to be nothing but conversations kind of centered around that. And it sort of died off, which I don't know, just makes me sad about it. That I'm keeping up with the comments. Look at me. I'm a streamer now. What else? What else you guys got? How do I go? I don't want to replace that. Get away. Here we go. This. There we go. Just make some on the fly editing here. Yeah, there we go. Come on, where's center? There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, Slack messages and being able to search. I don't know. Slack's been, I guess, because I'm the admin, they're getting ready to drop 415,000 Slack messages from our thing, which is a lot of Slack messages. Does the streamer influencer stuff die and circle back to in person? I think it already is, to be quite honest with you. So if I was to add a little more color to this, one of the things that we saw in 2020 was the content creator in tech became a thing, and lots of people, and obviously we were all kind of online and filling our bucket that way. And lots of people became content creators, and some people blew up, and influence kind of became a thing, and companies needed influencers to push their product because there wasn't an event or whatever, finding new ways and scaling. And arguably we can see it with the election, and we can see, traditional things are dying in favor of other things. And some of that is generational, right? My kids look at the internet different than I look at the internet. And then, but it's also like, does it die? I mean, is it going to die? No, I think it'll just keep evolving. I think the question will become, follow the money. Who's doing it well? Who's got the audience? Because the reality is people are paying for the numbers. So you want a sponsorship, no different than a conference. They want guarantees. They want to know how many asses they got to talk to. They want to know how much money they converted. Part of the reason that it really works well for influencer type stuff online is because you can hand them a report and say, well, this is how many people did it, and this is how many people clicked on your link. Whereas if you're at a conference, it's sort of different. Like, how many people went to your booth? Sure. But then they go, well, how many products did I close? I don't really want to look at the long play and say, well, because I was here, now people are a super fan and they use me all the time, or I hired somebody and I didn't have to pay the cost. One of the biggest, ROIs for, sponsorship used to be hiring people, but now you've had 400,000 people laid off. People's inboxes are full of recruits to hire folks. So they go, well, I don't really need to go to a conference to hire anybody. And my argument is, yes, you sort of do, because then you don't have to worry about the inbox. Like, these are people who are already stepping out. You can meet them in person. Your point from like zero to hire is way faster, but they don't know how to deal with what they have today. And thus you see a lot of companies kind of pulling back, and they're not hiring either, because they're firing. And so that balance is wrong. Money's super expensive. So they're not, they're not pushing product like they want to push. And the marketing's hard when you're in person. And so you see companies, and I don't think that it's wrong. I think it's a little short-sighted, at least in some areas, but I don't think it's wrong. And I understand that they are being more diligent about their spend, and more importantly, their return on their spend. So, back to the original question, will the influencer stuff die and circle back to in person? I think there's always an ebb and flow. I think as we see Google search change, because it seems to be a dumpster fire, I think you'll see, Brian, we can't. We're just going to add it right here. Yeah. IRS. I don't even know what IRS stands for, other than people who want your money every year. Yeah, it's changing. And I don't think that it's bad that it's changing. I think we have to adapt, but that also means things like that conference have to change. And so the the thought of having a conference that has thousands of people at it, while there are some, and ironically in Europe, it's kicking off really, really well. You know, you have to say, what's the end game and what am I getting for it? And why do I want to do it? And we were never one to like say, hey, we're here to throw a party. Mine was always community first. So, yeah, I just think things are changing. I think the pandemic was the circuit breaker, and there's, I don't know that it's bad, but it comes at, I mean, for me, it doesn't feel very good because we have a giant loan over our head, but it's a different, it's different. It's almost like personalities don't come across on a resume. I mean, imagine meeting somebody in person and like seeing if they can communicate. Is it only tech or is it other industries seeing the struggle? So for US, it is tech and healthcare. The other industries seem to be doing fine. I will say that we have found that it is 4-day events are a dinosaur in favor of 2-day. And that's, I'm going to go purely based upon cost, hotel costs, food costs. So the big multi-day events are slowing down, and that's across all industries. But in Europe, I mean, their conferences are banging. So the Europeans are like, I'm out. Like, let's go. I imagine the value proposition should be easy for consulting firms trying to make relationships with both clients and developers. It would be if the consulting companies were trying to come and so some consulting companies have decided to use a conference as their marketing tool on their own. So they're using it as a loss leader. They're treating you as the product, and they want to find either the best engineers or look like they have market strength so that they appear more as a, what's the word I'm looking for? Thought leader in the industry. And it's just a total sales strategy. So I hope people can see that T through the, or see that forest through the trees. But, you know, the whole reason to have a polyglot conference big is that you have that diversity of people, company, technology type, so that it's this melting pot of things that you really breed new things out of it and new ideas. Brian is typing on a treadmill, and given his skills, is probably going to fall on his face. How are things going with Undefined? Well, that's not the company name. It's called Unspecified, but I'm sure Undefined is doing just as well, which is not great. Yeah, we're in a point of rebuilding at the moment. I get the general feeling that career development took a backseat for some after lockdown. It's tough to get people off the couch or away from their phones nowadays. I don't think you have to get that feeling. I think that is the reality. Educational budgets went away. They were reduced. They were people got on edge because they're worried about whether they're going to get fired or not. Just the whole undertone is a weird place for folks. I don't know anybody who feels like they're comfortable in their job. And even if they own a place, I don't think they feel comfortable. So, Ryan, it's okay, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. mean, who creates company names that make no sense? I also think, Ross, in the backseat of development, people, right or wrong, stopped sort of working overtime and said, I've had enough. And I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing, but if you're not studying in your off time, and maybe some of that's generational, I don't know. There's certainly generational things at play. X to millennial to Z, which would be my kid. Certainly each does something a little different and thinks a little different. And, we probably should have had a little bit closer eye on generational type things. I didn't really ever think about it in the beginning, but, we saw a whole generation of kids grow up. My kid was 3 and now he's 18. So that's definitely a different, I guess early Clark would have hoped that they would have, come to that conference and, but would have come as an adult, and some did, but even the family side has been dying off over the years. Consulting lags behind industry, and industry is just starting to turn. Yeah. I mean, that is a pretty spot on statement. And I'm not even sure. It's hard to say whether the industry's even turning if it's just not adapting to something else. I'm not sure. Dan, my man, you're never late. Just early to the next party. Do it like that. Let's put your face halfway. There we go. Look at that. I appreciate the love. Lockdown certainly made it difficult to pass the torch. Man, lockdown made everything difficult. It just was. I don't know. Unnecessary. I'm not even sure what to. How to even really process that still. But I'll say this. You're still seeing the effects of it. You're still seeing the effects of the budget cuts, the layoffs, all of that. And, when prices are, so many people didn't come. I've heard this a number of times, like, oh, well, that conference really raised their prices. And it's like, well, if you haven't come since 2012, well, yeah, of course, prices have gone up. But also, if you look at the prices of something like a hotel that was in 2019, if you hadn't gone to a conference since 2019, then the price of hotel and gas and everything, like your total cost is just drastically higher. We went from rooms that were, I don't know, I think we had rooms that were like 125 maybe a night back in the day. And now they're like 400. And that means you're spending, I don't know, $2,000 to stay at a place, which is kind of neat about Texas because that wasn't expensive. We were in this weird off time. And so then a natural conclusion to ask is like, well, why not just run TC at the Kalahari in an off time? Well, that's a possibility, but then it's not really a family event anymore. It's an event that family could come, but they would be during the school year. I'm certainly not running one over Christmas. And so it's just different. That makes the event different. And then you have to ask, is that the right venue? Is there a place that it could be done cheaper, more accessible to folks, maybe more often, smaller? I don't know. But sort of, if it's not in the summer, like the travels, the holiday, it's sort of hard to justify the place at the cost that it is. So cost and location, that's not close. Everybody's got to drive. Now that has other benefits too, because everybody's there and we can all like really be present in that moment, rather than skipping out and going down to, whatever restaurant or bar that's, around town. That was part of the reason we did it there in the first place. But it's just different. So we're kind of coming up on the hour. I'll just say, we, Carrie and I, huge shout out to Brett. He took a chance on us back in the day. It was a crazy time. We built some cool stuff. He's been part of TC since, I don't know, 2014 maybe. It's been a big help to everything we did. I don't hate that it ended the way that it did. And, I appreciate everybody's support. And I, for those who'd asked how you can help, it's helping me with From Code to Clarity. I don't know, consulting gigs, I guess. Although I'm not really looking for consulting gigs at the moment. Speaking opportunities, whatever. But I really want to build the coaching program up. I got a course that's coming out for speakers or people who want to speak. So I guess keep doing you and call me on my shit when you see it. Whatnot. So unless there's any other questions, unless I see anything pop up here in the next minute, I'm going to say thanks for joining in. Stay warm because it's cold no matter what global warming says. And it's not dead. It's just not this year. All right. I'm out. Thank you.